Hey friends, thank you for tuning in. Today we are sketching 2020 Triumph Rocket 3. So about a year ago, when people could still mingle, I went to the Long Beach International Motorcycle Show. Saw a ton of cool bikes, but one of the first bikes sitting there was this Triumph Rocket 3, and it's massively impressive. And it's just massive generally. We've got a 2500cc 3-cylinder motor, tons of cool details. I'm super excited to get into this sketch. Let's do it. So as I usually do, I start with a ground line and then start laying in my perspective lines. This allows us to identify the right perspective for our ellipses, right, for where our tires are going to sit. And as you saw, I just measured out the spacing, pretty roughly or loosely to get a sense for the wheelbase. And then I start blocking in key points, right? The trail angle, adding some more flesh to the wheels to see, all right, this vehicle has some pretty thick tires on it. Is that going to shrink my wheelbase, and do I need to move the rear wheel back? I end up moving the rear wheel back later in the sketch, but for now I continue to noodle. So we really get into kind of plotting out some key points, like where the 3 cylinders, where the exhaust begins to exit the engine, right? That's a key design feature on this motorcycle, so we really want to make sure that that reads correctly. Now, and here's why it's important that I think we take the time to sketch bikes that are on the market, right? Like this Triumph or some of the previous videos that we've seen, and because it gives us a sense for proportions, for some of the details. We really have a chance by drawing to thoroughly study the designs that are on the market to help inform our concept designs, right? That's why I think that it's very important to do this type of vehicle study. If you are interested in designing motorcycles or designing vehicles or really any kind of art, you'll want to have, this is our figure drawing class for motorcycles. These types of sketches inform the way that we will design and develop our concept motorcycles or concept vehicles or whatever that thing it may be that we're drawing. In the industrial design world, that can be any number of things. It's very broad and very vast. But as you can see here, I'm realizing that the rear wheel wasn't in the right spot, so I had to move it back just a little bit, get the seat in there, because it was starting to feel way too compressed with the tail section, because this bike is really long and that rear wheel with a single swing arm really hangs off the back quite a bit. And you'll notice that I kind of bounce around the bike from front to back, then back to the front, and I just start to detail it out. But I like to work back and forth through the sketch to make sure that I don't get too caught up in any one particular detail and then lose track of what's happening with the rest of the bike and have that one detail be out of proportion or out of sync with the rest of the sketch. So I like to move around through the sketch, try to capture the overall proportions first, and then really get in and start noodling away on some of the details. And so that's what you see here, is that I'm beginning to noodle around some of this front fender, the brake, and just get into some of that detail. Then I bounce back to this fairing detail, this bit of cladding over the radiators, and then start blocking in this very iconic dual front headlight from Triumph with this front windscreen. Very important to capture that. It's a key design element or key design DNA for Triumph, is that headlight arrangement. And then we take some time to really come back in and start to refine the curves and the shape of that tank, because this tank is massive and it's the second read really after you see these big exhaust pipes, you read this massive tank. So we really want to capture that shape. And you know, at a certain point in any sketch, I often go through this moment where I'm like, oh, I've ruined the sketch, I might as well restart. But I continue to noodle on or to doodle on and just make adjustments, make refinements, and the sketches generally will end up coming together. So if you ever get to a point in a sketch where like, wow, I think I messed this up or it's not turning out the way that I want it to, stick with it. Stay with the sketch, finish the sketch, and then if in the end it's really not to your liking, do another one. Right? But make the effort to finish the sketches because oftentimes they will be salvageable. Right, so like with this particular sketch, I made some mistakes with the rear wheel and the wheelbase, but I just kept going and just made adjustments. That's why it's important to draw lightly at first. Right, you can kind of ghost things in, find placements, but if you draw too dark or you press too heavy or are too heavy-handed early on, it does become more difficult to make those adjustments later on in the sketch. So drawing lightly is an important thing, and I have plenty of exercises that I can show you that to help train the wrist, if you will, that I'm happy to share later. Just leave a comment. But that is an important part of being able to build up a sketch through time and make adjustments, and that's by drawing lightly. Finessing the sketch, as they may say. But as you can see, I'm not getting super crazy with all the detail in the engine, because when you look at the bike, the first read, right, you've got this blacked out engine, right, it's powder coated black, and then you have these really bright finished exhaust pipes, so that really stands out. So I try not to get too detailed in the engine because the first thing you want to see, or that you want the read to be, is those pipes. Then I come through and start adding some more detail through the wheels, kind of gestural, right? I'm not getting too specific with all the details, and I'm not going through with ellipse guides to really make the wheel ellipses perfect. That's okay, this is just a sketch. And take note of the way that I'm actually holding the pencil. As I move through the sketch, when I'm doing different types of things, I'm holding the pencil differently. So when I'm laying down that shadow like you just saw, I'm holding it a little bit looser. And when I get into the details, I hold it a little bit closer to the tip to have some more precision. And at this point, I'm kind of coming into the home stretch on this sketch. Finishing in, adding some light shading to the seat, putting in some finishing touches just to really get some darker contrast, making sure that everything feels like it's held together, right? So creating those connection points between the headlights and the front fender, or the headlight front fairing and your triple clamps, just kind of ghosting that in or creating a gesture for that. In my reference image, I can't really see the details on the wheel. They're pretty dark wheels and they're in shadow, so I just kind of block something in there and then just create a shadow shape and set that all back in shadow. All right, then we go through and we add some punchier, we really try to get full range of our value out of this Prismacolor. Right? And with Prismacolors, you can erase, so it's another reason why we want to draw lightly, then build up, but then really try to press hard and get to that true black value for certain spots that we want to jump off the page, right? So we're creating a shadow underneath the tank to make sure that the tank reads as a separate element and that you get a clear read on that. Setting back some of that headstock behind the bars there. But my language is all messed up around that. But you know what I'm saying, you're looking at it. All right, then you just add some of these technical details to finish it off. Add your signature, and there she goes.